Follow along on your masterpiece paper. Here are the basic shapes. Well, forms, really. And all objects that you can draw in the world are variants of these 5 basic shapes. Well, forms, really, because they're three-dimensional in illusion. So we have a pyramid. We have a sphere. We have a cone. I like to draw the ellipse, and I like to draw a vertical from the center, and then I connect the points, and that makes a nice cone. And then I can erase this. Shaboom. See how we get the nice elegant edge by drawing the ellipse through. And we have one of my favorites, the cube. Let's sketch that in. I'm kind of just sketching with the detail position from this, going this small or this size that works for me now. All right, little cube. Plastic and sketchy, and we have to remember our cylinder. And we can. Those are the 5 basic shapes, or forms, really, through which you can build all other forms. These basic shapes can render any other form in the world. Trees, plants, animals, objects, buildings, cars are all variants of these basic forms. Shapes is technically a 2-dimensional term, whereas these are obviously 3-dimensionals. But these 5 shapes or forms. Now let's vary them. So this pyramid, we could make it really, really skinny. Or very fat. Very low and fat and not too tall, or tall and skinny. The circle could vary into an egg shape or an oval shape. The cone could be very pointy or let's try one really blunt. There we have a blunt one. And let's see, what if we made one, what if we put one here, a small ellipse and a long line, long vertical. And see if we can make a really tall, spiky one, so the form there. These 2 shapes are very similar, aren't they? There's some interplay between those. And the cube could be extended into a rectilinear box for buildings and whatnot. We don't see straight cubes very often. We usually see rectilinear boxes, but that's a variant of that, see? And the cylinder, let's say we did like a lampshade here. Let's make it wider here so that we can vary that form. See, that's a variant of that. Or we take that and we sort of cut this off, remove the top, and we can make shapes from other shapes and understand how they're working. Another thing we can do to shapes is add shadows to them. If we had chiaroscuro down one side, fancy name for shading. We can have the dark side here, the lighter side on the top. Light side left, brightest side on top. We could have a cast shadow coming off of it to add a 3-dimensional depth. The cast shadow really adds that 3-dimensional depth. And if the shadow ever crosses another thing, like this pencil crossing the shadow of that pencil, or tree branches or whatnot, or if one shadow, if this comes across and then it goes up on this, see how that shadow, that really would describe that form very well. Really make that illusion pop off the page when the shadow from one thing shows up on another thing. Another thing we can do is we can make them three-dimensional. So we could, or make them X-ray vision, like we could see through them. Imagine with our X-ray vision that we can see through them. So this oval shape, if we put an equator around it, so here's the equator this side, then on the back side it's dotted. Or back here, so this, we can see through it. We can use our X-ray vision. Dotted back here, X-ray vision back here. Based on what we know here, that's going to come down, or overlap that really. And then there's going to be a bottom plane. So put on your thinking cap to see X-ray vision. Here, let's make this one. There's the opaque, and then let's make it transparent, X-ray vision. Based on what we see in the front, we can imagine what is behind it or inside of it, X-ray vision. That's why portrait artists, we can show you what you would look like bald. If you have a full head of hair, we can show you what you would look like nude. We can show you, if we can see the front of the desk or the car, we can imagine what the back of the desk looks like based on what we see on the front. When we get to drapery study, you can see where drawing drapery is drawing the nude figure. This is a figure. He's not nude actually. It's a little cartoon figure. You'll see him. Figures are hard, but clothed figures are even harder because we're drawing the clothing that we see, but we're also hanging them on the bodies that we don't see. So X-ray vision is important for figure drawing, and X-ray vision is important for object drawing. And these basic shapes, if you know your shapes, you can turn them, basic shapes, render more sophisticated forms, more complicated forms.